All right. All right, folks, so let's get started. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. So I'm Scott, the Canadian Fisherman, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Ken Johnston from MarMac Lodge. And as you know, what we're doing is each week we're featuring a Ontario outfitter so you can get to know them and find out if they might be right for your next fishing or hunting adventure. And so if you would like to ask us questions because you're joining us live on Facebook Live tonight, just pump it into the comment section and I'll be sure to monitor those and read those out. If you want to say hi, that's great too. And if you're watching this on a recording, thanks very much for giving us the time to do that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to be able to find all of the contact information for MarMac Lodge in the show notes below, so you can reach out direct to Ken. So why don't we get things started, Ken? I'm going to pass things over to you now. And why don't you kind of give us the high level, the executive summary. Tell us about MarMac Lodge.
Well, the history, I guess, is what I could start with. First of all, thanks for having me on here tonight, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great.
And yeah, it's a great opportunity. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we've been on Essen Nagi for 60 years. I'm the third generation where my family is. It was originally my wife's family's. Her grandfather started the lodge on the lake in 1959, and her dad, my father-in-law Don, worked for him as a teenager, and then he went down to Toronto and got a job working like most kids do, got a job. And his dad told him about the opportunity of a lodge available for purchase on the same lake called Swanson Lodge. And Don purchased it in '72 with his wife, and he raised his family there more or less. And so they changed the name to MarMac Lodge, and MarMac is actually his wife's name, Marcy McLaughlin. That's where that comes from.
Ah, I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah. And then, so in '94, Debbie and I took over running the lodge, and we've been running it ever since. So it's been 25 years that we've been there. We raised our two kids. They're 21 and 24 years old now, and there's potential of being the fourth generation there running the lodge. So makes it kind of unique, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a real true family business, and that's a real family story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we really enjoy it, and it's a it's a nice thing to be a part of. I mean, I consider myself fortunate to be able to do this for a living.
I betcha. So why don't you maybe share with people geographically where you are? We got something up on the map there, but for people that are wondering, whereabouts the lodge is located. So we know you're on Essen Nagi Lake, and maybe take it from there.
Yeah, Essen Nagi is basically the lodge is 3.5 hours north of the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan or Ontario, right at the border. So once you get to the Sault, it's 2.5 hours to Walleye, and then it's 1 hour to White River. Typically, that's what we tell people when we're describing where we are, because we fly out of White River and we also train out of White River. The lake is a 20-minute flight in. So yeah, basically that's where we are. Because there's different options of coming in. I'll talk about it later, but basically you can come. I'll give you how far it is from Toronto. Toronto to White River is about 13 hours, but there's the option of coming in from Sudbury too, which is a lot quicker. So.
And for those of you that are wondering, I can guarantee you can get there faster than 13 hours. Just saying. And if for a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll drive up and they'll stay somewhere the night before. And I think Wawa and White River both have motel options, right?
Yeah, White River has got more motels than White River. White River has two main motels, and in the summertime they do get a lot of construction and mining and stuff. So it's key to book early up there. There's not a lot of rooms, but and if you can't get one on White River, there's always Wawa, which is only an hour south, or 50 miles. So
yeah, it's a great tip though. If someone's booking a trip with you, make sure you book your hotel accommodations at the same time so you're not left scrambling.
Exactly, because if you wait for a month in advance, you'll probably won't get a room in White River. So.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned here, and I think this is a real interesting, part of it, that, the whole fishing experience is pretty exciting, but the options for getting there are pretty exciting too. So why don't you talk about, the two options? And I know that we got a couple slides here where we can take it a little deeper.
Yeah. So the train Well, the flights, first of all, are out of White River, Ontario. We fly with White River Air, and they have an otter, which is shown there, and usually he has a beaver, and he usually has about 3 beavers in total. So he's moving with 4 planes up there, and like I mentioned, it's a 20-minute flight, and the otter holds 9 people, and the beaver holds 4 people. So yeah, we can get you in real quick. Once you show up at the airbase, we can usually kind of start moving people real fast. Then the other option is to jump on the train out of White River, and it's an hour train ride. It's about $25 each way, and the train runs between Sudbury and White River. So it's usually from Sudbury, it's an 8-hour train ride, and from White River, it's an hour train ride. So depending on which way you come, that's how you decide where you're gonna drive to as your destination.
That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about this. So let's assume that I'm a guest and I'm taking the plane. I'm flying in.
Yeah. So mostly when you fly in, basically what we do is what we kind of recommend you do is when you get to White River, if you're flying in the next morning, just give a call to the airbase that night and just find out what the weather is going to be like. If they think it's going to be rainy, or if they say, you get over here at 7 o'clock, we'll get you in as soon as you get here, and that way you're not waiting around. There's no guessing. Or also say, you know what, you'll probably get till 10 o'clock. Just go and have breakfast first, and then come out. We'll get you on a plane. You know what I mean? So that way you're not sitting there from 7 till 10, hungry and just kind of waiting. So like I said, it's a 20-minute flight. We can move upwards of total of maximum of 8 people at a time. So yeah.
So for bigger groups, it's just going to be, someone's going out on the first flight and the rest are coming in on the second, but everyone's going to get in.
Yeah, exactly. And then the airplanes have weight limits. That's typically it's 100 pounds a person. And the way that works is basically like a beaver holds 2,400 pounds. So is that right? 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. No, actually, it's more like 1,200 pounds. That's what it is. 1,200 pounds. So it's basically kind of averaging out at 200 pounds a person, and then 100 pounds each per person. So if there's only 3 people on the flight, they can throw a little bit more. If there's only 2, it can get more even. But typically, it's kind of just says keep it restricted to 100 pounds a person, because we may double your flight up with another group of 2. So you never know how many people are going to be on that airplane.
Yeah, and Ken, I think that's really important to note for people is that, it's not so much the size of your group, right? Stick to that 100 pounds, because if they may put another group in with you, but they might also be flying equipment. And so because you're not using all the weight, you don't get it, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. If I can throw a motor on or whatever I need to get in there, so the more we can make use of those flights, the better it is. So
yeah, that's great. And whether or not, and I know you're going to talk about American plan versus, housekeeping and stuff like that, but 100 pounds is lots. Just so you know here, Ken, it is Bill Rivers is I don't know if you know Bill, but Bill said, he's made some great memories up at your lodge. And Bill, I bet you're not the only person, who says that too. So
yeah.
So one option then is, you drive up to White River, and then you go to White River Air, you hop on the float plane, and they're going to, fly in. And then the other one, which I think is really interesting, is the idea of taking the train. So tell us how that works.
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention too is that we make all the arrangements for the flights too. So all you do is you just call and book and say, we want to come from Sunday to Thursday or whatever, and then that's it. Like, I'll take care of the flights. I'll make sure they know you're coming. And then you actually settle up at the lodge. You don't pay the airbase or anything like that. So it's all taken care of, So that's one thing that I think people like.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. No friction, right?
Yeah, exactly. So So you were mentioning the train. Yeah. So the other option is there's a train that leaves from downtown White River. It's called the Bud Car, and it's a part of Via Rail. And what it does is, one of the things we want to make clear, it's not the Algoma Central Railway. A lot of people kind of they all think that it's the ACR, which goes from the Sioux north. We're not the ACR. We run east to west. So it goes to a Sudbury, Ontario. That's where it starts out of, actually. And it runs 6 days a week, but it doesn't run on Monday. So it leaves Sudbury on Tuesday morning around 9 o'clock in the morning, and it gets up to Essen Nagi about 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4:30 in that vicinity. And then, so it's 7 hours from Sudbury. The destination, if you do, one of the best ways to book it, your train is online at viarail.ca, and we're stop 88. So it'll ask you what's your destination. We used to be stop 88. Now we're Swanson. Swanson's the name of the stop. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works in Sudbury, and then it also leaves. So what it does, it goes from Sudbury to White River, spends the night, then goes back to Sudbury, spends the night, goes back to White River, spends the night. So it goes one way each day. So on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, it leaves Sudbury at 9 o'clock in the morning. And on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, it leaves White River at 7 a.m.
Got it.
So you got to get up pretty early to be there. You got to be there at like 6:30, but you're going to be guaranteed to be at the lake in a boat by about 8:10 in the morning, you know.
Right. So whether or not you're coming from Sudbury or you just drive to White River and get on the train there, the idea is instead of going to the plane base, you're going to go to the train station.
That's right.
Right? And so you can see this picture of this guy. He's just chilling out in a train car driving up. And am I right here? Like they stop on this. Basically, they stop the train and you unload that train and you go right into the boats.
Pretty much, yeah. Like the conductor lets you know. Like it is probably in your best interest to book online in advance. I mean, you can actually just get on the train and pay the conductor as you get on and sit down. But he'll come around and ask you for your ticket. If you don't have a ticket, he'll say, you know, where are you going? And you say MarMac, and he goes, okay, that's, you know, $25 or whatever it is. And you should have Canadian currency when you do it.
Okay.
Where was I going with that?
But so they're going to drop, you know, when I say drop you off, I mean, it's a planned stop, but it's not like you're going to another station. You're going to mile marker 88.
Yeah.
You're going to take your gear and then you're going to hop on one of the boats and then you're going to boat them to the camp.
Yeah. The conductor, like I said, the conductor lets you know when you're there. He says, you know, we're here. So everybody gets off, they put a step down, and everybody gets off. And so they open up, so there's basically two cars. One car is for passengers and the other one's for luggage. It's just a small little bus in the middle of the wilderness, which is what makes it kind of cool, you know? Yeah. And so basically everybody kind of stands there and we kind of like, so all the luggage comes off. So there could be quite a bit of luggage coming off, not just one groups, but multiple groups coming off at once. So we kind of like, you know, the train kind of keeps track and says, no, this is MarMac, you know? So we'll take all the luggage, we'll pile it in a big pile. And then we help everybody else unload all their stuff too. And then once everything's unloaded, the train just shuts the door and keeps on heading back down to Sudbury or wherever you can go. So once it gets unloaded, we kind of start making arrangements to we'll have like, depending on how many people are coming in. So if we have, say, like 12 people coming in, lots of times we'll send 3 staff down just to more or less carry most of the luggage down to the boats. We get it on the dock, and then we'll have the boats all sitting there, and they're 18-foot cedar strips, so they're huge boats. And one guy takes charge of kind of packing the boats and making sure that it's all evenly distributed. Then we get everybody in, get everybody the life jackets, and we drive to the lodge, which is about, I don't know, 10-minute drive.
Awesome. And so there's a comment here, and it's something that I was talking to you about was, so weight doesn't become the issue anymore. So one of the advantages, if you're on the plane, you got to be a lot more careful with your weight. The weight doesn't become the issue when you're taking the train.
That's right. That's right. It's more about the amount of packages you have. They kind of charge more, like you're allowed 1 carry-on and 2, I think it's 2 parcels or something like that, or two pieces of luggage. So 3 in total. So the key is like, don't have any empty coolers. Pack in. If you do have, just pack as full as you can with stuff, or bundle up cases of beer pop into like 3 cases of beer instead of 1. That way it counts as 1 parcel. But they only charge you like $3 a parcel, like per package, you know? Yeah. So, you know, you could be 20 over, it's only going to cost you, well, that's $60, which is that's a lot of gear, you know, for $60. So
Well, I'm thinking, there's two things that are really great about that option, maybe three. So one, there's not a lot of places where you're taking a train to a fishing trip, which is cool. Number two, it solves the weight issue for people that say, listen, because you might have people that, have CPAP machines or stuff where it's going to be tough for them to make weight. But also it's a guaranteed departure time. It doesn't matter if there's a low ceiling when you're taking the train.
Exactly, and that's the thing. No matter what the weather does, you're guaranteed pretty much to get in. And with the plane, that's not necessarily so. Like, it's visual flight regulations, so they need a 1,500-foot ceiling in order to fly safely. And if they don't have it, they ain't going. So,
Yeah.
and one of the nice things about it is if you do call the airbase the night before you're supposed to fly out, and it's and they say, you know what, tomorrow it looks kind of rainy. It looks like it's going to rain most of the morning or all day. Maybe you should just jump on that train instead of flying in. And so you just go over to the train, and they either have room or they don't. Most of the time they do. And like I said, you can pay the conductor right as you sit down. So you don't have to have a ticket in advance. So
awesome. So there's some flexibility there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, let's slide across here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the lake that you're on?
Sure. One last thing about that, about the flying too, is the weight is the biggest problem. And most of the problem with weight, it comes in beer and stuff like that. Liquids is very, very heavy. So it's in your best interest to have me kind of order your beer in advance or something like that. That way you don't have to worry about weight. You know what I mean?
So that's a service that you offer where someone can reach out ahead of time and say, could you, arrange that this much stuff gets there in advance?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, most of the weight is usually, if you don't have beer, you can pretty much make sure you have everything you possibly need,
Yep.
So so the lake is called Essen Nagi Lake, and not to be confused with with Eric out of Essen Nagi. They sound the same, but they're about a long distance apart. So Essen Nagi is 27 miles long. It's got about I think it's about 5,000 hectares or about 12,000 acres, and I figured it to have about 75 to 100 miles of shoreline, somewhere in there, So, but it's completely remote. There's no road access whatsoever. The train comes in at the very bottom of the lake, the very southern tip. And we're about 3 miles up from the bottom of the lake. So like the boat, from the train to the boat is about a 10-minute drive full of luggage and everything else and all the people and stuff like that. So the average depth of the lake is about 30 feet deep. There are some holes upwards of 90 or 110 feet deep. There's lots of beaches, lots of islands, lots of shore lunch locations. There's a lot of structure in the lake. It's not like a big puddle because it's so long and skinny. It's actually got a ton of structure because there's so much of the shoreline is impacting what's happening underneath. And there's amazing sunken, like hidden shoals and just a ton of weed beds, lots of big long bays. And I tell you, lots of times you're out there, you wouldn't think there's anybody else on the lake, and there'll be 40 people at the lodge. Like I've driven up the lake when every boat's gone off the dock and not being able to find one of my boats out there. You know what I mean? Like driving the whole length of the lake. Like there's just a lot of water out there to fish.
So I'm looking at this map and I'm saying to myself, and you mentioned lots of structure, but I'm also thinking here, it doesn't matter how windy it is, you're going to be able to find a place to fish.
Pretty much, yeah. Most of the worst winds on that lake are out of the south. It's primarily in the middle of the lake where we call the Narrows. What happens is it's right in the middle there in that big, where the lake turns.
Yep. And
what happens is it just builds up waves out on the south wind and rolls them all up into that Narrows. So lots of times you'll be coming through that Narrows and you're like, oh, everything's, it's a nice calm day, you're driving along, and then all of a sudden you come out of the Narrows and you're in like 8-foot swells because it's just the way. But most of the time it's a pretty calm, relatively calm lake. It usually gets windy in the afternoon a little bit, but I always tell people, if you see any kind of wind like picking up, that you're getting kind of any whitecaps right around noon, consider getting above the Narrows, because it's not going to get any better probably before supper anyways. So
good tip.
But yeah, there's lots of places to fish. There's lots of fishing close to the lodge. After supper, most people stay within about 10 or 15 minutes of the lodge. That gets 15 minutes will get you up into the middle of the lake. To go from MarMac straight to the north end with our boats and motors, it takes about 50 minutes, I guess, on average. So what most people do is they'll get in the boat in the morning and they fish their way up north and try to catch fish for shore lunch. And then when they get to the north end, they'll have a shore lunch at the north end, and then they fish their way back for supper for like 5:30 if they're on the American plan.
Cool. So listen, let's talk about you got two ways to get out. You got two ways to arrive. So one option here is assuming you flew in from White River with White River Air. Maybe tell us a little bit about how that process works.
Yeah. So what we do is when you come in, you fly directly to the dock, and we unload all the gear, and then we get you. Basically, we kind of get to know, like, we'll get past all the hellos and the hugs and all that kind of stuff. And then my staff will make sure we have a tractor and a wagon to move all your luggage, and all the luggage is moved for you to your cabin and brought directly to your decks or right inside the cabin for you. So
Awesome.
You never have to handle any of your own luggage or anything like that. And then once you're in the cabin, we usually kind of let you settle in for about, for a little while, whatever it takes. And then we usually invite you to come down to the main lodge and kind of go over a little bit of, what's happening and how we're going to do things this week. So.
And so here's a shot. Actually, I think this is actually, loading off the train at mile marker 8, but how is it different, or is it any different if you're coming in by train?
Well, the thing is, it's a little more labor intensive, because not for you necessarily as a guest, but more for us, because we are there primarily to move the luggage for you.
Yep.
And so like I said, as you can see here, they're unloading the train. The staff on the via rail unloads the train, and they identify whose luggage is whose, and then so we put them into piles, and then once we have them in piles, we get them down to the dock, we put them in the boats, and we head back to the lodge. And once we get to the lodge, we just park the boats, we get everybody out of the boats, unload all the boats, all the luggage, and
the same thing, take all of their luggage gets taken up to their assigned cabin.
Yeah, exactly. We find out who everybody is. One of the things, before my staff is sent down there, they're told, okay, you have these many groups or whatever, and this is their name, so they can organize it all according to that, right? And they put everybody's luggage in one, like that boat is for that group, and those two boats are for that group, and they know exactly and so the luggage isn't in one big mishmash. It's all separated out. And then once they get to the lodge, we move all the luggage, we do all the lugging. We get you up to the cabin, and then, like I said, again, once you get to the cabin, we'll get you to come down and go over some stuff at the lodge.
All right, so here, this is a beautiful picture. And I bet it looks as nice live. So, there's the whole camp, and then there's also the main lodge. So maybe why don't you tell us a little bit about the actual lodge, and the grounds and all that.
Okay. Well, it's on about 5 acres of land. It's kind of a sandy site. It's incredibly well treed around the lodge. There's a lot of huge jack pines and red pines. So the lodge, as we always say, is kind of nestled into the woods. It's not we went in and took it all out, and we hardly have we have some grass to cut, but mostly we left. Most of the grounds are all like blueberries and wildflowers and that. So there's hardly any grass, at all, which is kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
So the main lodge, there's a main lodge building, which most people come down to and hang out at, and this is where the dining room is. And then there's 9 cabins located around the main lodge. So the cabins sleep like 2, 4, 6, or 8 people. Mm-hmm. And and they're well spread out. They all have fire pits. They have big decks. The shore lunch, there's places to do fires around and have shore lunches around the lodge. And there's a fish cleaning house for people to clean the fish.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's
So maybe Ken, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, do you offer both American Plan and housekeeping?
yeah, we do. We offer a full American plan, which is 3 meals a day and daily maid service. And
Okay.
we do the housekeeping plan, which is where you bring in your own food and cook for yourself. So the daily maid service is a complete turning over of the cabin. Like we make all the beds, we do everything inside the cabin. The housekeeping plan is more just kind of coming in and taking out your getting your garbage and changing any towels that you may have.
Okay.
Um,
And for the lunches on American Plan, is that normally like a box lunch or a shore lunch?
yeah, it's you can either take. Usually, what we do is the girls or the waitress, the wait staff usually ask the night before, "What do you guys want to do for lunch tomorrow?" And then they'll do a shore lunch. They'll either make a shore lunch kit if they're unguided, which includes like everything you could possibly need for shore lunch, including frying pans, lifters, onions, potatoes, flowers, everything you can imagine that you would have for shore lunch, as well as wood to make a fire and fuel to get the fire going. So that, you can take all that supplied by the lodge. You can also do a bag lunch. They'll ask you, do you want, so if you're not doing a shore lunch, they'll do a bag lunch and they'll have that ready for you in the morning to take with you in the boats. Or you can come in for lunch and you can do uh, have lunch right in the main lodge at noon if you want. You know,
Great, great
uh,
option.
the supper on the American plan is primarily it's family style meals. So it's kind of on a rotational basis of 7 days, and so it includes uh, an appetizer, a main course. So if it's roast beef, it'll be roast beef, mashed potatoes, carrots, and then an appetizer, which could be say like a vegetable platter or something like that, and then a fresh made bread daily. Every day we have fresh bread. Fresh made desserts daily, so whether it's pies or a cake or whatever, and then coffee and tea for supper. So
That's
um,
awesome.
there's also if you have any dietary concerns, we can cater to that as well. So if you have like any allergies or whatever, we'll make sure that it's not served to you and nothing's cooked. If it's a peanut allergy, then we just will avoid peanuts, and
Yeah,
peanut oil and all that kind of stuff. So
makes sense.
um, if you want, you can also do a modified American plan, which is you can just like have all your breakfast at the lodge, have your lunch every day out in the lake, that you make yourself, and then come in and make your own supper or whatever. So you don't have to do a full American plan. You can also do kind of like a mix and a mix and match, or maybe you just want to have supper one night, like say Wednesday night. You're like, well, we don't feel like cooking tonight, so just let us know Tuesday night that you're gonna have supper on Wednesday night, and we'll just take out more food for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we just kind of take care of it at the end.
So folks, as we keep here enjoying our conversation with Ken, if you do have any questions you want me to pass on to him, just type them into the comment section there below. A couple comments here about you being a great outfitter, and I don't think there's going to be any argument with that. Also, it looks like here you got a nice space here for your guests as well. If they don't want to go out that day, or maybe the weather isn't ideal, looks like you got a nice comfortable lodge for them to have some downtime.
Yeah, this is the lodge is set up like this is the lodge is basically three parts. So the one end of the lodge is the dining room, and the opposite end of the lodge is this room. And so it's got a high speed or a flat screen TV, a 70-inch flat screen TV. It's got a satellite TV. It's got a high speed wireless. There's a big pool table to play pool at night. So lots of times we'll have 15, 20 guys sitting in there watching NHL playoffs or,
Mhm.
basketball last year,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have a dartboard. And then in the center of the lodge, so the dining room and this room are both lower. And in the center of the lodge is more room for dining if we need it. And we also have clothing sales and a tuck shop up above. And
Beautiful.
the tuck shop has like it's got a fridge full of pop and water, and
Yeah.
also there's tackle all the, I need lots of jigs and stuff like that, as well as chocolate bars, chips. And so if you want snacks, we do have like small bags of chips, but it's better off if you're, at night in your cabin to have, your own snacks and stuff like that, even on the American fan, probably.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
So that kind of, walks us through the main area. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the accommodations that your guests get to have?
So, like I said earlier, the cabins are primarily log construction. They're 2, 4, 6, and 8-person cabins. The cabins are fully equipped with a full kitchen. They have full electricity and everything. So they have in the kitchen. It's got a microwave, a coffee maker, a toasters, a full-size oven, full-size fridge. All your cooking and eating utensils are there, like full frying pans and whatever you need. Paper towels. There's 3-piece bathrooms with toilet, shower, and sink. And if the cabin sleeps more than 4 people, we have usually got 2 bathrooms per cabin. So
okay,
yeah,
that's great. So people aren't wanting for anything in your accommodations here.
No, they're fully. There's a barbecue on the deck. There's big decks, to hang out on. Like in this particular cabin, not every cabin, but a lot of the cabins have these sitting areas. Some of the cabins have gas fireplaces, like you can see with the window and everything. And all the furniture in the cabins, every cabin is 100% log furniture. It's like all the dressers, all the tables, everything is authentic log furniture. So
great. And look for beds. I know we talked about the fact that you got a bed and you have the linens, but you also have the ability to put those beds together sometimes too.
Yeah. So most of the beds are always set up as like twins, but we do have the ability, if we have couples that come in and they want to have a king bed, not want to sleep separately all week, we can actually make king beds for people that request in advance, or even if they don't in advance, we can always whip them together pretty quick. And that's a nice touch, because a lot of people, so that's like a camp, or more like a resort, when that's a situation where they can relax like that, so.
That's awesome. That's great. So, you talked a little bit about, once people come in off of the, either the plane or the boat, and you get their gear put away, and then, they're invited down to the main cabin. So could you talk to people about how do they figure out where to fish? And, what about guide service? What about that kind of stuff?
So yeah, when everybody comes, after you get settled into your cabin, we have people come down to the lodge. And basically the first thing we always do is kind of pull out the maps, get to know everybody, shake hands and everything, introduce ourselves. And then we get out the maps and we'll go over a lake map, because every week is different. And what we do is we get the guides to come down too, and they'll do a lot of the marking for me, because they know exactly where the fish are that week.
Yep.
I may not necessarily know where they are over the entire lake like they would. It's in our best interest to make sure that our guests catch fish, so we're not going to keep any secrets. It's all out there to, for everybody's information. So even a group that comes, say, like in June, the fishing could be a lot, and they come back in July, the fishing could be completely different. They're 100% different spots, be in different depths. So lots of times, most of our customers that are returning customers do come the same time every year, but lots of them will try different times of the season. And it's kind of a challenge, because it is a whole new lake almost every time, during different seasons. So,
Great.
yeah, so we go over to like such as all the electricity is run by a generator.
Yep.
And so, because there's no power, so we kind of go over like the hours of the generator. If anybody has sleep apnea, we usually know that in advance, but some people don't let you know. So we'll get everybody that needs sleep apnea. The power goes off from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day. So we provide backup power for sleep apnea and stuff like that.
Great.
What else? We go over like what else do we do?
Well, I think you did good. So you're going to make sure that people know where they should be spending their time fishing. You're going to make them feel comfortable. I think one of the big questions, and Here's a question. The guy says, listen, I'm dying. Tell me about the fishing here. So we're going to get to that. But in order to fish, you got to be in a boat. So why don't you tell us about your fleet of boats that people have available?
Yeah. So basically, all the boats are 18-foot cedar strips. Right now, we have a mix of 20 and 25 horse motors. We're slowly kind of moving the whole fleet over to 25s. But basically, there's very little difference. There's a bit of difference in the speed, but basically, yeah, they're both high quality motors, the 20 and 25. So there's 18 feet. All the boats are equipped with all the landing nets, all the bait buckets, all the seats, seat cushions. We also, as long as somebody's on the dock, or as long as somebody's out on the water, we have somebody working on the dock. So nobody ever ties or unties their own boat, or they shouldn't be. They never change their own gas. When you leave in the morning, like lots of times we'll have the motors all running for you. We have the seat cushions in the boats. We have towels, fresh towels in the boats for wiping your hands. We just make sure everything's ready to go. And then when you come back, no matter how many times a day you come back, we'll have somebody there to dock your boat, check your gas. When you come in before supper, we'll go through your boat, get all the garbage out, clean it up. After supper, we'll get you ready to go out. And like a lot of guys will go out after supper from 6:30 or 7 till about 9 or 9:30 at night in the middle of summer. So
sure.
We also clean everybody's fish for them. So all you do is when you come in with the boat or you come in with your fish, you just say, hey, we want to eat these 3 walleyes and we want to take these 2 home. And so we'll just take them up and we'll clean them up for you to go home or to eat and bring them up to your cabin, or we'll freeze them ourselves. And one of the reasons we do that is because it keeps everything. We make sure there's a certain way to package fish for transportation that's either legal or illegal. So we try to make sure that all the fish are legal. You don't have over your limits. You don't have either in the numbers or in size and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's a great service. And I've fished those boats before, and they're a dream to fish out of.
Yeah, they're comfortable. There's no reflection. They don't make hardly any noise. You got lots of room to move around. I have more than one style of this boat. We designed. They have the kind of traditional boat. They're made by Giesler Brothers out of Powassan, Ontario, south of North Bay, and we decided to try to make more of a kind of a casting boat, a flat bottom boat with pedestal seats, and so that's a design that we really like, and a lot of people really like.
Beautiful.
And I usually order 2 or 3 or 4 boats a year, and just keep replacing the fleet and get more and more in there.
So listen, let's talk about what you do with those fish. So your main species that we'll get to. Let's start with northern pike. Tell us about the fishing opportunities on Essen Nagi.
Yeah, so a lot of quality pike on that lake. It's a big walleye lake, but it's also got incredible pike fishing as well. There's a lot of weed beds close to the lodge, as well as all through the lake. But you don't have to go real far to fish for pike either. The average size, you'll catch a lot of, I'd say, well, first of all, maybe I'll talk about the limits of pike. You're allowed 6 pike to go home on a normal license. Mm-hmm. And so it's 2 over 24 inches and 4 under 24 inches, but only 2 of those 2 over 24 can be over 34 inches. Mm-hmm. So you'll catch a lot of fish in that 30 to 35 inch range, or 25 to 35 inch range, a lot of pike, but you'll still see a lot of 40 inch pike, and a lot of, I've seen as big as up to 46 inch pike, and plenty of those. But
listen, I don't think you're going to get a lot of people complaining about catching 30 to 35 inch pike. That's a beautiful fish.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of numbers, and it's a great lake for that. In the spring, you're going to be fishing more on the weed beds. A lot of the pike will be up up in about 6 or 8 feet of water. As the summer moves on, lots of times if you get into like July and August, they start to go a lot deeper, and a lot of times you catch a lot of big pike, just jigging for walleye, because
Sure.
they're where the walleye are, and that's when you have those stories about people bringing in a walleye and, a pike grabs onto it, takes it back down to the bottom again.
Been there, yeah. So I mean, it sounds to me like when it comes to the northerns, you do have trophy potential, but you've also got great numbers available.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, you won't have any if you're targeting pike, you will definitely find pike. I mean, it's it's simple. I used to say it's kind of like fishing for dummies.
So then let's transition then into the walleye. Is it the same scenario? You got trophy walleye potential in numbers as well?
Yeah, it's a great, I always say the one thing that I think, all those lakes, whether especially remote lakes up there in the north, they're all phenomenal fisheries. But I think that Essen Nagi's, the thing that separates it apart a little bit is the fact that the quality of walleyes are there. You'll catch a lot of 21s, 22s, 24s, 26-inch walleye like in a day.
Wow.
And one of the reasons that is because back in the early 90s, Essen Nagi was one of the first lakes that they put a slot limit on the lake. So there was only like 5 or 6 lakes in the province that they tried to slot out, which now is common, but at the time it was unheard of. So the slot was 14 to 17 inches, had to be released. And when they first put it on the lake, we were, kind of worried because, well, a lot of the fish were in the 14 to 17-inch range. And and we had kind of noticed a little bit of decline in the fishing there because we'd been on the lake since the 50s, and the walleye fishing was kind of getting hurt. But one of the problems back then too was that the take homes were high too. It was 6
Mhm.
walleye and it was take whatever you want. So on top between introducing the slot and then dropping the amount of the limits to 4 and only, you know, um, I mean, the fishing on that lake just went through the roof. Like by about 2000, we were ready to like have the slot go up to like 14 to 20 inches because
Yeah.
we were catching so many fish outside of that slot. And a lot of other lodges actually just went and just put that slot on the lake voluntarily because they could see what it was doing for Essen Nagi. But then the government came in and they tried different other slots, and then they ended up with this. For walleye, it's 1 over 18 inches and 3 under 18 inches in our zone 7.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, those are great eaters, right? And so it's nice to let those bigger fish go and let them breed, right? So it's great.
Exactly. A lot of people don't realize how old those big walleyes and those big pike are, but like a lot of guys, they'll say they accidentally bring in a 30-inch walleye, and it's very rare that it ever happens anymore. But you tell them, that walleye is like 30, 32 years old. They're like shocked, like they had no idea that they're that old.
Yeah, so I think for our American friends that have warmer water, they don't realize that it takes a lot longer to grow the bigger fish up here, and so that big fish in the United States in warmer water may be a lot younger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Plus those big walleyes, anything over like 24 inches in a walleye is pretty much 100% guaranteed to be female. And the viability of those eggs is a lot stronger. They may not lay more eggs, but that's also a lot better genetic stock going into the lake with those big old walleyes. So
Beautiful.
key is to keep them in the lake. And we really promote, like, you do not need, and the thing is, those big walleyes don't even taste very good.
No,
I don't think they do. I
no.
mean, the best tasting walleyes are between 17, like,
Yeah. 16, 17 inches is my go-to.
yeah, exactly. They're unbelievably good. Like, that's all you need. And that's a lot of fish. Like,
Yeah,
4 fillets can definitely feed 3 people easily.
easily, yeah.
So
So let's slide off. So we've covered the pike, we've covered off the walleye, but you also have another species that people can fish for, which is the brook trout. Maybe you can cover that for us.
yeah, so behind the lodge, there's a little lake, which is kind of unique to us. It's right behind MarMac, and you drive your boat down the shore from the dock. It's about 3 or 4 minute boat ride. You park your boat on shore, and you get out of the boat on shore and walk up to the lake. And it's kind of uphill both ways a little bit.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's only about a 10-minute walk or 12-minute walk. And when you get up there, it's just like the lake is only about 3/4 of a mile by half a mile. But it's a spring-fed lake, and it's cold as can be, and it's cold, it's clear as can be, you know. And so they stock it with brook trout, and they've been stocking that lake for like 50 years. And so yeah, we catch a lot of really, really nice brook trout. The best brook trout fishing up there is in the spring. Like literally, you can just stand on the rocks on the shore and catch 3 or 4 walleye or brook trout in, half an hour.
Beautiful.
If you get out in the boat and troll around a little bit, um, it's unbelievably fun. Like those brook trout have so much power behind the head, and the way they fight, they turn your boat in circles before you. And they're the kind of fish that comes when you're fighting them. You'll catch them off the bottom, and then it takes a lot to get them up off bottom. And then they kind of like race to the boat, So then you got to keep up, and then when they see the boat, they head right back down to the bottom again.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And their meat is pure red, and the limit there is 2 brook trout. And yeah, basically what we do when we're fishing for those. I should go back to the walleye a little bit and talk about how we fish for them too and everything. But for the brook trout, primarily we spend a lot of time trolling. With my favorite lure up there is a little Cleo, a 1/4 ounce or whatever, just a little one. And it's red and gold. Red and gold colors seems to really work phenomenally well up there. There's no live bait allowed because it is a trophy lake. And the reason they do that is because they don't want the trout to like suck it in too deep, and that way you can get it out of its mouth and without injuring it at all. If you put a worm on it or whatever, it'll take it down, and then it's all everything goes badly in terms of trying to release it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can also, a lot of people fly fish up there for those. It's a lake, not a creek, so it's there's a lot of key areas. What I do a lot of times, I don't have an actual map from the ministry or anything like that, but what I'll do is draw a map of the lake before people go up, and I'll say, this rock pile here and this rock pile here, you want to go between it and that rock, go up and around, and yeah, try to give people as much help, because it's again, the key is to get people catching fish. You don't want them going up there for no reason. After about June 20th or June 25th, they kind of get lockjaw a little bit, they're harder to catch. But in the spring, it's like I said, right early you can just catch them off the rocks. But in the first couple of weeks of June, it's an amazing thing to go up there. And I had one guy from Montana who thought he knew brook trout fishing. He went up there and he said, "Guess how many fish I caught this morning?" And I said, "I don't know." 20. He goes, 50.
Wow.
So I've never done that, but I mean, every day's different, but there's a lot of fish up there. They've been, like I said, stocking it for 50 years. In the last 5 or 6 years, they put about, I don't know, 1,500 a year in there. So I don't know if more fish is better, but anyways, there's a lot of fish up there. So.
Well, it sounds to me like, if you're looking for a great, fishing options, you've got it.
One of the things about that lake too is they somehow, nobody really seems to know, but there's lake trout in there too.
Sorry, there's what there?
Lake trout.
Okay, yeah.
Like the lake is literally, it's not very big. It's like I said, 3/4 of a mile by half a mile. I don't know how many acres it is, maybe 10 acres. But the thing is, it's so cold, and it's about 45 feet deep. And yeah, somehow lake trout managed to survive in there. And I've caught lake trout out of there up to 30 inches, 10 pound trout, which is amazing at a 45 foot. One time I told the biologist, the Wawa, I said, so what's, because they didn't really know there was lake trout in there. And I said, so what's the limit on those lake trout if I catch one? And he goes, oh, there is no lake trout in there. I said, yeah, I've caught him. He goes, no, it's impossible. There's no lake trout in there. I said, no, I know there's lake trout in there. So, but it's kind of cool. And I was going to say on the walleye too, the primary way we fish for walleye is jigging.
Yeah.
We 1/4 ounce jigs. We have about 60 different colors of jigs at the lodge. Tied to your jig directly on the line, no swivels, no leaders. usually tip it with live bait. I have bait at the lodge. Also at the dock, the dock hand gets all your bait for you. So all you do is when you get them down to the boat, your motor will be running and everything. You get in your boat, getting organized, and just say, the dock hand will come over and say, what do you want for bait? And you say, I want 2 dozen leeches and a dozen minnows or whatever. He'll go get them, fill up the things, bring them back to your boat and tie them on the side of your boat for you. So
Wow.
you don't do anything, literally it's the service is second to none at that lodge. Like,
It sounds like it.
yeah, that's what we pride ourselves on: friendliness and service. Like, and that's what a lot of people say is like, I never expected it to be this nice and this friendly, and I'm like, well, how do you put that in a brochure?
Yeah.
You have to kind of experience, right?
So listen, let's if we can keep things going here, can you talk, maybe we'll transition briefly here. Why don't you give us a quick overview of hunting for moose and bear, and then I know we want to talk about your outpost camp at the very end.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that's how fast this had gone by. I wanted to mention too, real quick, that I do have guides available, and I have really good guides. They're highly skilled, and they're available from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, and they'll do a shore lunch for you. So when you hire a guide, you get a lunch, like a professionally made lunch. And that's the nice thing about taking a guide is he teaches people how to do the lunch, So you go out one day with them. First you learn how to fish, and then learn how to cook lunch. Then you just take your own kit the rest of the week. It's easy, Yeah, so we do offer moose hunts. We've been doing that for ever, since the 50s. We primarily, I don't get a lot of tags anymore. I have 4 bolt tags, and that's 4 archery or 4 rifle. It doesn't make any difference. I don't really offer a rifle hunt. Primarily, we just do an archery hunt, and we've been highly successful. Usually our guided hunts are 100% success rate. Because there is such a high success rate, primarily, it's just easier for us not to use guides. We kind of get people to kind of guide themselves. But what we do is what I'll do is, if you get somebody in that's never been on the lake before and doesn't really familiar with the area, I'll take them out and I'll show you. I'll say, you should come back in here in this bay, sit here, call. And if they need help, I'll go out with them like a couple times, sit and call with them, teach them how to call, all the raking of the leaves, the splashing of the water, all the things you need to do to make it happen. I mean, the thing is about the archery hunt, it's such an amazing hunt. I think it's one of the best hunts in the world, because when those moose are in the rut in the fall, I mean, if you cough properly, they'll come into you, like they're worked up.
Right.
And you'll never have more adrenaline in your blood than if you were jumping out of an airplane. I mean, it's nothing like having a 1,200-pound animal coming at you, through the bush. So at full roar.
So you offer moose hunt. So you got some tags there, primarily archery, and that's mostly in the fall, I would assume.
Yeah, it starts the last week of September, usually like the 20th. I think this year it's the 27th, which is pretty late. Sometimes it starts as early as the 21st or whatever. But yeah, so it's pretty late in the fall. What you want to do is you want to bring somebody with a strong back and a weak mind, because because there is no like mechanical stuff to help move that moose, So
yeah,
a lot of it's hopefully he dies right where you shoot him, and you just but sometimes, most of the time they don't. So you got to go get it. But if you need help with that, we can help. I don't usually still have staff help close, like because I usually keep staff around to help close the place up.
Yep.
But yeah. So yeah, you're not on your own. Even though I say it's unguided, it's not like you're just like left to the wolves. You're helped all the way through. And usually we try not to do an American plan on that. We have in a lot, even up to last year we did one, but I think we're done with that. It's too hard with they're hunting during breakfast, they're hunting during supper. Cook wants to go home.
Yeah, the schedule would be challenging to work there.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ken, what's the difference then? How does the difference between the bear and the moose?
Well, the bear hunt, we've been doing that for about 15 years, I guess. I have 2 BMAs, which is huge. I mean, I have the entire south end of the lake and the entire north end of the lake as a BMAs. But I don't really hunt on the north end because it's so far away. To run up an hour and baits, would be killing. So basically, all my baits are within about 15 minutes of the lodge. We bait, probably have 15 baits. I don't have more than definitely no more than 2 groups. Usually I try not to have more than 6 hunters at a time. And all the baits have cameras on them. I usually start baiting prior to, a week or two prior, probably 2 weeks prior to your arrival. We Once you get there, we show you your baits. They have tree stands in them, and everything's set up for your thing. But once you get there, you're kind of on your own schedule. And the thing that makes it so cool is a lot of bear hunts are just a bear hunt. You go to whatever town, and you go to a motel, and you go hunt in the morning, and you go hunt at night. And so lots of guys. One guy told me, he says, there's 20 minutes one way to go hunting and 20 minutes the other way to go fishing or whatever, driving or more. This is like, you get up in the morning. If you want to go hunt in the morning, get up, go hunt till 10, come back, get a bite to eat, go fishing the rest of the day, have a shore lunch, come back at 4, get your hunting gear back on, go out and sit in the tree stand till 8. It's just a really, really, really fun hunt. And you can, once you're done hunting, once you get your bear, you can go fishing the rest of the week.
Yeah.
In world-class fishing, that's the key.
Boy, that's a great second bet, Hey,
yeah. So I don't really guide it because I don't guide it one-on-one or whatever. But if you need help, again, we'll get to help you get it out of the bush. And if you need help skinning and all that, we'll help you out. But we kind of expect, that you're kind of involved as well,
So listen, Ken, we got a couple questions actually back on fishing. So I hate to change gears on you, but good question here is, as far as the Brook Trout Lake, do people have to book that? How do you make sure that everybody has a shot at it?
Well, what we do is we split it between another lodge on the lake. And so what we do is we have a sign-up sheet that goes, basically it's usually daybreak to 9, 9 to noon, noon to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to dark. Yep. A lot of guys will, so me and the other lodge will say, I got a group that wants the Rock Lake, wants one of the boats from the morning of Tuesday morning. I'll be, okay, fine, that boat's gone. So then anybody else who comes gets the other boat, or, you know what I mean? Or gets both boats. And so there's lots of, so we try to just make sure that, because you can tell if somebody's up there because the boat will be on shore on Essen Nagi.
Yep.
So there's people. So
Sure.
If you go there and you see a boat there, that somebody's already up there. But we just try to make it so that nobody's making a wasted trip up there. Nobody's disappointed. Nobody's getting pushed off the lake by people standing on shore, tapping at their watch.
Yeah.
So that way everybody shares it. But you only need, the cool thing about that Brook Trout Lake is you don't need it all day up there. You go up there after breakfast at hit there by the time you get up there, say it's 8 o'clock, you're done at 11:30. You've done the rounds. By noon you're done anyways. Which is great because you can go fish brook trout in the morning. All the guys, the rest of your group is out fishing walleye and Essen Nagi, and now they're having shore lunch with walleyes. So
super. So here's your next question. This is someone's looking for the state secret here. They want to know, what's the go-to lure for trolling for pike?
My favorite lure is, I'll be honest with you, is a 3.5-inch Williams wobbler.
Yes.
Gold and silver with a crinkle finish.
Yeah.
That just slaughters them on our lake. I don't know what it is, but I've been trolling a shoreline and throwing all kinds of stuff at it. You throw one of those on the end of your rod and bang, 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 nonstop.
You can never go wrong with a big spoon. That's for sure.
Yeah, but they'll take whatever, a pike will take whatever it can get into its mouth. A lot of people think, oh, it's a musky bait. It doesn't, as long as it's same with the wall. Every fish really can take, those brook trout. I've caught them on one of my main lures I use up there is the number 5 Meps, a big Meps.
Yeah, big spinner, yeah.
4 inches long, and that's what I've caught brook trout on. Sure. And so yeah, a lot of guys will be selling these musky baits. I catch a brook trout up there where I'm from on those, But anyways, so whatever you throw out there, make some noise, and they'll usually come after it. And if they can get it in their mouth, they'll take it.
Beauty. So listen, why don't let's move off the hunting if that's okay. Let's talk about your outpost camp.
Yeah, so I have this north end outpost. It's called the north end because it's located on the north end of the lake, the northernmost tip of the lake. So the lake is 27 miles. So this cabin sleeps 10 to 12 people. It's got 4 full bedrooms. It's got 2 full bathrooms, hot and cold running water, flush toilets, It's got so it's got a septics and everything like that.
Everything.
It's got a full kitchen, two fridges, two propane fridges. One of them's brand new last year. The other one's been fixed professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a little trouble with my fridges, but that's all fixed now. It's a huge cabin. Like if you look at that picture, the front part with the 4 windows in the front, that's all kitchen.
Wow.
And then the bathroom's at the back. So yeah, you can see there. That's the kitchen's looking out over the covered porch, and you can see the lake behind the cabin. It is an absolutely gorgeous spot. It's high demand, and usually I'd try not to get 10 people in there. It's a lot to look after, but 6 or 8 people in there is perfect. We cut the grass up there. It's a lodge on itself, but you're on your own. It's got a 2,000 watt Honda generator, and it's all wired into the cabin, so you have plug-ins and all that kind of stuff, and light bulbs and electricity in the cabin. So
beautiful. So I mean, the benefit there is you kind of get to do your own thing at your own place, but you still get all of the wonderful fishing that everybody else gets.
Exactly, and it's fishing just the north end, which a lot of people just like that. Like in the lodge, they don't fish just because the lodge has bigger boats and motors. You can fish the entire lake. Where the outpost is more meant to just kind of stay up in that north tip. We have switched our motors over from all 9.9s to kind of mixing 20s and wooden boats with aluminums. And some 9.9s. It kind of depends on how big the group is and what they want to do that week, But primarily we try to, it's just better to have bigger boats and bigger motors up there to kind of get around. But yeah, and it, because it can get kind of rough up there too. Like every lake can get rough.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of good fishing literally right off the dock. I mean, there's a huge weed bed in front of the dock, and on a south wind, it blows right in there. I've talked to guys they got so sick of catching fish off that weed bed that they went in the dock. Then they got sick of catching fish off the dock. It's and the river that feeds it is just up around the corner from that outpost. It's called the Magpie River, and the lake is the headwaters of the Magpie River, which runs down through Walleye to Magpie Falls. So the river, the whole lake flows to Lake Superior, and the next lake over, which is 5 miles up, runs to James Bay. So it's the top of the watershed. And it's totally pristine, perfectly clear, or it's tan. The water is tan and colored. It's tea stained, but yeah. So yeah,
that's awesome. So as you maybe think, Ken, if there's anything we didn't cover, folks, if you're looking to get a hold of Ken, there's his coordinates. So marmaclodge.com, the telephone number there that you can call. You can email them at the info site, and if there's anything I can do for you, my coordinates are there, including. I'll be posting this video on the YouTube channel, and that's where all the other ones will be. Ken, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to get out to people?
No, I was just going to say that, like, if you want references, I can give you references of Canadians or whatever city you're from. I'm sure I have some customers from there at some point. You know what I mean? So if you need somebody to talk to about it, just get confirmation of what we're offering here. And when you do call, you're talking directly to me. The phone goes right to me, to my cell, and I have it 24 hours a day on my hip.
So now people can put a name to the face too. So they'll hear the voice and they'll know your pretty face too.
I guess so, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thanks so much, Ken, for sharing the information. Sounds like a fabulous place. And I can't imagine that anybody could watch this and not put MarMac Lodge on their bucket list place to go to.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was a lot of fun.
All right, folks, thanks so much for joining in. Really appreciate it. And again, if you want to look at any of the other sessions, go to that YouTube channel. And if you want to reach out to Ken, he'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. We'll sign off now.